How many potato chips are in a bag? What is it these days? 6? 7? We're joking. Ish. Have you noticed? Portions are shrinking, yet prices are doing the opposite. Everything costs more, and somehow we're getting less. So, what can we do about it? Listen up. I'm Stefanie Dekker, and welcome to The Stream, where we take digital trends and your online conversations and give them context.
I scanned your food, and it comes to $1 gazillion.
Omar has a T-Rex and a Go Fish card.
We want to make our chocolate bars 15% lighter.
Just make the gaps between the triangles bigger.
Oh, shit.
£8 for this!
We need to make our bags of chips lighter.
Aren't bags of chips already pretty light?
Lighter.
Leave out 5 chips.
Yeah, great. We want our bottles to hold 100 mils less.
Then redesign the bottle.
Won't everyone notice?
Well, just say you're doing it for environmental and design reasons.
That's so smart.
Well, inflation is loud, shrinkflation is sneaky, and together they're hitting our wallets. Do you know what shrinkflation is? It's when manufacturers quietly cut the size of a product without changing the price, and it happens a lot. Is it legal? Is it ethical? What we do know is that it is expensive. Well, to discuss all of this, we're joined by Omar, an assistant professor of marketing at the University of New Brunswick. He joins us from St. John in Canada. And we have Gardner, an investigative business reporter covering finance, algorithmic systems, and pricing. And he's joining us from Minneapolis in Minnesota. Gentlemen, before we get to the conversation, I want to show you an example, not for you, obviously, but for those who might not know what shrinkflation is in practical terms.
Yeah, can I get a chicken shawarma wrap, please? That'll be $6.50. I'll pay debit. Whoa, this is huge. Yeah, she's loaded. Thank you. Enjoy. Hey, can I get a shawarma wrap, please? $6.75. Thank you. Have a good one. Chicken wrap, please. $7.50. Thank you. Yeah, hey, the usual. Chicken wrap. $9.75. $9.75? Hey, it is what it is. Have they always been this size? Yeah. Okay.
Omar, let me start with you. Looking at that, that's quite shocking, right? Is that something that is happening a lot? How widespread is it? Is it certain countries? Is it global? How would you describe it?
Well, fun video to start. It is a very wide phenomenon. We've seen this in Canada. We're seeing this in the US. We're seeing this in the UK, all over the world. Consumers go home with the same amount of dollars they're spending with a very similar looking boxes, and they're just finding it to be less and less. So very common phenomena, actually. Matter of fact, we're looking at 10.3% of grocery in the US, I think that was 2025 data from Capital One, shows the prevalence of the phenomena. So very widespread, not country specific, and consumers are feeling it effectively every day.
Let me give some examples to our viewers. The UK consumer watchdog Which in the UK, some of the things that are being affected: household staples, candy bars, chips, biscuits, toilet paper, laundry detergent, coffee, yogurt, pasta, and we're not noticing. Eric, we're getting less product, less quantity for the same price, sometimes, I guess, even more expensive. Are we aware of it? Is the consumer aware?
I think generally, yeah, we're certainly getting less for more. And I think generally the consumer is kind of aware that something is going on, but probably not to this specific part of, it's unreasonable to think that a consumer would be tracking the ounces that they're getting in their orange juice. But at the end of the day, they know something is up, and they know that they're paying more and more and more for less and less and less.
All right, so we don't want to be the bearer of more bad news and depress you, but it's not just getting less for the same price. Lower grade ingredients are also being used.
Have you heard of skimflation? It's even sneakier. It's when companies secretly replace their ingredients with lower quality and cheaper ones. And it's happening everywhere. Chocolate doesn't have cocoa butter anymore, but instead palm oil. Butter spreads reduce the amount of vegetable oil in them and add more water. And probably the worst of it all, toilet paper is getting thinner.
So, Omar, is this new? Has this been going on for a while? How would you describe it?
Okay, so this is really tricky. Shrinkflation is not a new phenomenon. Actually, organizations have been doing this for a long time. And for, I don't want to say a good reason, but from a business perspective, it does sometimes make sense. And I will tell you a little bit on this in a second. But this phenomena has been, yes, long ongoing. It's not new. We're seeing it and feeling it significantly more because of the impact of COVID, post-COVID, wars, instability, supply chain disruptions. I can go on and on and on. But in essence, organizations, when they're faced with the challenge of reduced bottom lines, some of the things they do that we know has less elasticity, meaning consumers react less in the short term to size reduction as opposed to increasing price. So when you increase price, we know something will happen. Consumers will drop off quickly. When you reduce size, they do not react as fast in the short term. Long-term implications, yes, but this has been a tactic organizations have been used for a long time.
That brings up a survey that I was reading about. 2025 YouGov survey found that 80% of UK adults are very or fairly concerned about shrinkflation, up from 75% in 2023. At the same time, they found that fewer consumers are changing habits to avoid it. Eric, I'm going to go to you, but before I do that, you were part of an investigation where you examined how we keep paying more for groceries. Now, before I want to go to you on that, let's take a quick look at this video, which can be found on YouTube.
There's a system, one that grocery stores and tech companies built together. It learns from every purchase.
It's not just online. It's in the physical stores you walk into, with the primary goal: maximize profit.
Day by day, it's moving billions of dollars, one penny at a time.
Here's how we uncovered it, how it's turning the grocery business into a gold mine, and why, without regulation, your grocery bill may keep climbing no matter what happens with inflation.
What I found interesting there is that you're saying that it's not even getting away from the apps. It also affects you if you're walking into a physical store, right? I want to ask you, what did you find that shocked you the most in your investigation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the thing that shocked me the most was on how widespread this practice was. So for folks that don't know, myself, Consumer Reports, and Gardner Collaborative did this large investigation where we had about 400 people log into Instacart at the same time, select the same location, and then select the same basket of items. It was a pretty smart methodology developed by my colleague, Katie Wells. And in that, we found pretty massive variances around what people were charged for individual items. About 23% was the spread on the lowest to the highest. And what I mean by that is there'd be some times where, eggs would be $3.99. Some people would pay $4.28. Next would be $4.79 for the same exact box of eggs. And I think that to me was the most kind of jarring, is that it was across about 3/4 of all items. I believe about 71% of all items within this basket would have different prices based on what individual was shopping.
Yeah, I want to ask you that. So why are we being charged differently? Are they tracking us? Is this according to how we spend? Like, how would you break it down in terms of who gets what price?
Yeah, that's still, frankly, an unanswered question. So Instacart responded to the results in the research, and their response was basically, these are randomized tests that retailers are running. And that could be true. And with that, what they're trying to figure out is how much in aggregate are people willing to pay for individual items. So if, their standard price for eggs is, $3.99, if they can raise that to actually $4.25 and people are still going to buy, the elasticity is going to stay the same, then that's basically 26 cents to leave it on the table, right? And so grocers are trying to figure this out, and Instacart says that they're enabling to do it in mostly randomized tests. But kind of the flip side of that is my colleague Derek Kravitz uncovered a vast patent portfolio by this company called Eversight, which is all around doing these type of price tests. Within it, it showed a lot of advanced segmentation criteria. So based on past shopping behavior, based on your brand loyalty, that would effectively allow companies to charge you more or less based on what they think you can pay. And again, Instacart says that this isn't what's happening, that they're not doing it. And I should clarify, Instacart purchased Eversight, so they inherited this patent portfolio. And Instacart says it's not happening, but it's there. And within our test showed that people were being set into different groups based on, we're not sure, but those patents describe it really on that ability to pay.
Omar, what is your reaction to that when you listen to how that's been broken down?
Okay, so one thing I would say, I don't know the specific case, but I will say something. on segmenting consumers. Segmenting consumers is something organizations do all the time. This is literally a practice I do in my day-to-day job too, in terms of research patterns and etc. and finding the different groups. Now, here's where it gets tricky. And actually, just hearing this makes me really think deeper. When we look at segmenting, one of the things you can reach is specifically behavioral outcomes and sensitivity based on different elements. This can be your lifestyle, the time of day you shop, your age, your income, when you open the app, when you close the app. So while I don't know the specifics of the case, I feel that this may be something that is in line with what many organizations do. Now, it's standard practice when you want to understand your consumers a little bit more, but when you want to charge similar consumers in similar areas, different prices, this is where it gets a little bit blurry in terms of ethics, and legally, that's a whole other discussion. There's no clarity there, but from an ethical perspective, I think the question is really big here.
Yeah, because in my research for the show, I found that there's some countries already who have announced laws regarding shrinkflation over the last couple of years: France, Hungary, Brazil, South Korea. So this is something that, yeah, you want to say something, Omar?
Yeah, I'll actually jump on this a little bit quicker. So the Senate was looking to propose a bill on the rate to be regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. And part of it was, let's actually have shrinkflation as a deceptive business practice, or it can be prohibited as a deceptive business practice. Now, hasn't passed yet, and going through a legislative process. But I think this is where the lines are not yet clear. So as of now in the US, for instance, it's not illegal. But I argue from a business a loyalty perspective and brand building perspective, this can be really damaging for organizations, and many organizations don't see it. I know there is a pressure for short-term profits, but it's really damaging brands, and I do understand this. The literature tells us this, but many are kind of skipping over that.
Now, the awareness about what we buy and why we pick a certain brand should help us make better financial decisions, or so we think. What if our subconscious dictates our consumer behavior? Listen to this.
According to a Harvard professor who studies consumer behavior, 95% of the purchasing decisions you make are unconscious. But no, you say, I'm very rational about my buying decisions. I compare features and pick the most logical choice. Sorry to break it to you, but the research found that what's actually motivating you to buy is emotion. Humans are driven by feelings, so the brands that make you feel the strongest emotions win you over. Whether that's an athletic shoe company selling you on the euphoria of winning in sports, a cosmetics company selling you on the idea of feeling glamorous and beautiful, or an iPhone making you feel like a fiercely independent individual. There's an old saying in marketing, sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Well, he was referring there to Gerald Zaltman's book, How Customers Think. Eric, how much are we being manipulated according to our emotions?
I mean, a lot, I think would say. Like, there's a reason that Coca-Cola spends, tens of billions of dollars a year on different advertising campaigns across the world. It's not because people don't know about Coke. It's, as that clip described, they want to attach a certain feeling that would then make you want to buy Coke. And then, I guess most importantly, make you, make you willing to pay more for Coke. So we're being kind of manipulated, I would say, a lot in both kind of ways that are, I would say, branding and that type of marketing, I would say, are kind of, I don't know, somewhat above board to me. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. It's more of these kind of targeted campaigns around adjusting prices based on what they think you could potentially pay, or kind of what they just know about us feeding us ads, I think is more concerning than kind of the traditional kind of broadcast marketing.
Omar, you're a lecturer. You've got students in your classroom. I'm sure you discuss this. What are you finding? Are they aware of this? Are they shocked when you teach them about it? Like, what's their take?
Yeah. I actually was just asking my students last week, how do we feel about shrinkflation? Explained it the whole bit, and not to my surprise, many are aware of it. And the first thing I heard was, I don't like it. It feels sleazy. And I do understand that. And a lot of organizations understand that purchases can be divided, or consumers can be divided in their decisions into two areas: affective emotions and feelings, and cognitive. So this is the brain. And we know one thing, the affective element derives us in many cases significantly more to take certain actions. So we're not necessarily always rational. So yes, the younger students, I would say in my class, what I've noticed is they are feeling it. And what they're feeling in many cases is brands and businesses they've trust, they build relationships with, and they just think the practice really throws them off. And what's interesting is now when someone spots it, they open, I don't know, their TikTok or socials, etc., and they tell others, right? So, I've noticed this same product is this. And actually, what we're finding is nowadays consumers have become significantly more aware of it happening. And I think a part of this is we're just telling each other, and we're telling each other really quickly. So this can cause significant damage, and it is. And we've noticing it with younger students. They don't like it.
They don't like it. Of course, it's not transparent, right? It feels like, why am I paying the same for something that is less? Can we really explain what happens to prices with simple math? Well, there's yet another term you might have seen online, and that is greedflation. Is capitalist greed making inflation worse?
Former vice chair of the Fed was like, hey, it's not people getting higher wages that's driving inflation. Instead, she says what's making everything expensive is something called price-to-price spiral, which is basically price gouging. Companies just mark up the cost of their products and services even though their input cost hasn't increased. So what does this mean for you? Everything is very expensive, and those costs are not necessarily justified. But prices will continue to increase if people just buy.
So usually inflation drives up prices. You were talking there. This is all trying to put the cost on the consumer, not on the business. Insecure times, times of war, scarcity of goods. So, Eric, I'm going to put this to you. Are businesses also just doing this simply to make more profit, or is there more behind it?
So it's always tough to speak in generalities around this. So before joining the media, I actually worked in the consumer goods industry around pricing and grocery pricing. That's kind of what led me to this investigation. But so it's hard to say uniformly. Like I was with clients who, in the midst of inflation, in the midst of COVID, were really trying to go one for one, right, in terms of their price increases. But the problem with that is that retailers wouldn't, right? So I was with a small company at the time, and they were really trying to go one for one. And then we look at the data at the end of the day, you see retailers would go, one for two. So I would say, yes, overall, it's a pretty big issue within the industry. Pre-COVID, I would say that both retailers and food companies were really, really afraid to raise prices because they thought that their volumes or they would sell less because of it. And that's why actually shrinkflation basically developed as a way to raise prices without the consumer really knowing. And then once COVID happened, people realized that they actually had a lot more brand power than they thought, that they had a lot more power to raise prices. And so we're seeing the result of that right now. And I would argue that there's really no mechanism, at least within the United States, to bring prices down because the market's effectively kind of malfunctioning.
Omar, do you think that the way that we're living our lives online now is making it easier for companies to do that? We order our groceries, you can hail a ride, you book your flights. I mean, all of these things, they're tracking us, right? I mean, we know this by now. How does that play into it?
We know organizations have been long tracking us, and that's nothing new. But what's interesting is the more we're shifting digitally, data becomes significantly more accessible. So I can tell you that you can track to an individual data point. So one individual, you can track when they opened the app, when they were thinking of making a decision, when they've made a decision, and then with other elements you may have about this consumer. For instance, if you have their credit card information, if you have their address, etc. This is where clustering mechanisms, and it's called segmentation, or dividing people into groups with similar characteristics, becomes more clear and more easier to do. So with us being more digital, and this, by the way, happened post-COVID, we became more digitally available to organizations. Thus, they're testing their limits. And, Eric brought up this point, and I thought it was amazing, actually. Part of it may be a test of these limits, and part of it is testing upper boundaries and lower boundaries. And what many organizations have found is yeah, probably my brand equity and what I've built in my brand can carry me a little bit more than I thought it was possible. So organizations have tons of data, and that's just making the game significantly easier for them.
Yeah, and a couple of these surveys I was reading is that even if we might know about it, it's not having a major backlash on these companies to make them change their practice, right? Well, I'm going to play another clip now. All these terms and marketing strategies are making a simple grocery store run a very surreal experience, it seems, nowadays. Watch this.
Okay.
No!
Everything okay, ma'am?
It's just that you've only scanned a few items and it's already $60. I'm so scared.
Okay, I'm a trained professional, ma'am. I've scanned a lot of groceries. I need you to stay with me.
Oh my God! The numbers are going up so fast!
Don't look up there. It only makes it worse. Keep your eyes on me, okay?
Can't you just scan something less expensive?
I can, but let's not forget, it's the little things that add up, all right? Now brace yourself. I'm about to do the mixed nuts.
Oh my God, I'm gonna pass out!
Okay, bite down on this, Patricia. Get ready. I'm going to do the cured meats.
No, stop! I can't do this anymore!
It's too late. There's a line behind you, okay? You're locked in.
I'm not strong enough.
I know it looks like a lot right now, but I promise you, you're going to get home and you're going to wonder, what did I even buy?
Hard not to laugh at that, although it is kind of terrifying at the same time. Eric, I want to break this down into what we were just talking about with Omar, the apps part of it, right? We're seeing that clip showed a lady in a supermarket. She's physically in a grocery store. Can we get away from this? If we put, which is very difficult these days, but we put our phone away, we're going to go physically to the grocery store, we're going to hail a cab on the street, we're going to go into a travel agent and book our flight. Will this give us some control back?
I mean, I wish that I had a positive answer for you, but I think that right now things are moving a little bit too much in motion. Just for example, like part of the investigation that we found with Instacart is that it's just not an app. A version of it is within stores, kind of doing this mass price testing across location. It's not done at an individual level. It's done on a store-by-store basis. By that, I mean that there's kind of this large central algorithm that is dictating prices at individual stores and then updating them kind of constantly. And to be clear, grocers have always done price tests. The problem is that now the level of sophistication with the data and the level of sophistication with really the technology and ease of changing of prices through an electronic shelf label make it kind of unparalleled to what we experienced, 20, 30 years ago. I will say this, Omar brought this up a little earlier about kind of the reputational risk of doing all of this. Our report launched in kind of mid-December. So it's been out there, about 6-7 weeks. Just in the last month, Instacart's stock price is down about 17%. And there's already been investigations launched. The New York State has launched an investigation through their Attorney General's office. I've been in contact with other states that are also similarly interested. So, I mean, there are consequences that are going to come to this. We'll see what's happened. On the New York State side, they actually have a law against this type of pricing. It has to be disclosed. And so if it is what we think it is, there will certainly be some level of consequences for the organizations involved.
I mean, we might respect it more if the chip bag said, 20% less, yet you're paying the same. At least there's transparency and honesty, right? Omar, we're all about raising awareness here. I think it's such an important thing to raise awareness about. We're also about trying to help our viewers. How can you get around it? Can you get around it?
Well, starting with level 1 awareness, know that this is happening. Tell one another. If you see something, if you notice something that was out there that looks the same, I think it goes a very long way to say, hello, be aware, this is happening. This is less size of what you're paying for. And I think a big part of the movement towards the future is urging organizations. And you said it as a joke, but I hear you on this. We're looking for more transparency. I understand organizations have very hard time and will have very hard time to come out and say, yep, for 20% less, get the same. I understand, that is hard. But we're nowadays at the time where we're saying almost up to 80% of consumers are already finding out. If they're going to find out, well, you better tell them. You better tell them upfront.
Yes, all about transparency, awareness, and honesty does go a long way. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Eric and Omar, thank you so much. It's been a great discussion. And thank you for watching. For me and the entire fantastic stream team, I'll see you soon.